When I was signing up for Twitter, some 15 years ago, something like that, somewhere around there. 14 actually, in 2011 when I was signing up for Twitter. I got the name Megamuia and it stuck with me. I am an audio engineer by profession. That is what basically I do from day to day. At night, I gallavant as a music journalist, a music lover, and I talk about music on my Instagram account and on my TikTok account. Started to explore music. The first video that I did that blew up was on Sauti Sol and Sauti Sol's song Susanna, which is an interpolation or a sample. We learn all these songs, don't worry. It's a sample of Tabule's music, a song by Tabule called I've forgotten. I hope somebody please check and tell me that. Maze by Tabule, thank you. And coincidentally, that riff also appears in another song by a Kalenjin artist, strange enough, called, the song is called Chakumidet. The artist is called Junior Contestes. He passed away in 2015. Now, you might ask why I love music and where my love of music comes from. My sister is here, maybe, hi. Our dad really loves music and he plays a lot of music. Even today, he still plays music in the house. I remember the first CD that I ever listened to was Paul Simon's Graceland. I don't know how many of you know that album. Ladies with Black Mambazo and Paul Simon, Homeless, Diamonds on Her Shoes, all of those songs. And another one is The Three Tenors in Action, which is an opera record. That's Pavarotti, I forget the other two gentlemen, but it's Three Tenors and it's an opera CD. I listened to it a lot when I was growing up. So that is basically how I got into music. How I became a musician. I am a musician sometimes, let me say sometimes. I was really had an itch to create music. Learned FL Studio, whatever I felt about it. FL Studio, moved on to Ableton, made a few songs, a few, just producing and everything, learned how to produce. But one of my main interests during production was sampling. Because the first song that Kanye West song, do you have any Kanye West song? Play. We'll be playing a lot of music, so I hope you guys will enjoy that. That's Flashing Lights, featuring Duele, Flashing Lights. So my first introduction to sampling was through Kanye West. But he's gone off the rocker right now and it's a little bit insane, but the old Kanye, I miss the old Kanye, straight from the soul Kanye. Kanye West, that's the guy who really taught me how to sample and everything. And so today we'll be talking about sampling specifically in Kenyan music and what sampling is for Kenyan music. We'll be talking about Kenyan music and how Kenyan sampling has transformed Kenyan music and whether it has transformed Kenyan music. And one of the questions that we'll be answering is whether sampling is stealing. By a show of hands, is sampling stealing? No. We'll look at why and why not. So, it depends. Thank you about that. Look at a little bit of music history. And we'll start with Charles Darwin, who argued that music evolved by sexual selection. So his argument was that music was an effect of mating, just like we see in maybe peacocks and other animals who have flamboyant ways of attracting their mates, right? But this theory was argued because there is no sexual dimorphism in human beings. Sexual dimorphism means that there is a difference in how sexes manifest in the male species and the female species. So for example, peacocks have the long butterflies, other birds, the males sing and the females cannot sing, and therefore they attract the males, the males attract the females through singing. That is not the case for human beings, or is it? But the reason why it was argued was because the sexual dimorphism was that men do not portray more musical prowess than women, and women do not profess, and vice versa. Let's say, and vice versa. So that was argued down, and one of the theories that came up was that music came from language, that is logogenic, meaning that the music is about, the purpose of the music is to communicate, right? So we are writing songs that can be able to communicate. Think about our African talking, the beating drums as a form of communication. You remember that? Ululation and things of that nature, that is logogenic. And now the other one was pathogenic. Pathogenic being expression of emotion, right? And that is the grunts that you hear when you're in pain. That is a form, that is the most rudimentary form of music that exists. So this was proposed by Kat Sachs, I have no idea how to pronounce that. And he argued that music from around the world falls into those two distinct categories, arguing that they actually developed independently. So music before commercialization. So the commercialization of music is a recent phenomenon. Music has always been a communal pursuit. That is the songs we sing to tell our stories, to tell the stories of our forefathers, to tell the stories about birth. Songs about people who are born during the dry seasons, songs about people who are born during the rainy seasons, so songs about when you're going for circumcision and the rites of passage, marriage, death, and all of these things. That is the purpose of music. And since the beginning of recorded music in the 20th century, we've had the function of music has shifted more to an economic aspect, which is what we'll be looking at. What is the economic aspect of music? Like when you say you're selling records, when some groups have talked about the numbers that we have on YouTube and the numbers that we have on Spotify and all this, like, is that really why we should be making music? Should we be making music for art, or should we be making it for the purposes of selling and commercialization? Right. So music consumption. In itself, music is ancient and has always been consumed in a live setting. Team was somewhere around here, Hamster, for Nakili sessions on Wednesdays. That still happens on this very stage. And such live music events are what we had ever since time immemorial. So people seated around the fireplace, listening to music, telling songs, telling stories and things of that nature. So the emergence of the recording of the music industry came about through sheet music. Sheet music being, how many of you have been to the opera seeing the people playing the violins and the cellos, flipping pages? That's sheet music. So that was the first form of commercialized music that was now, but people termed it as a cultural fad. People say it would pass. One of the other things that was very prominent about music, about sheet music, was that it was more aesthetic than functional. So it was about looking cool, you know. There's a group here that spoke about the social classification of music. We had already decided that the music that we love, is music that speaks about God, religious music, right? And secular music was kind of moved to the side. And so looking cool and looking classy, quote unquote, is what was the function of the recorded music. But it evolved to now what we now know as the evolution of consumption. So we have the phonograph, which was invented by Thomas Edison, as it was just a side effect of the telephone, of him inventing the telephone and the telegram, right? And then we moved on to FM radio, is somewhere in between. AM radio actually came before FM. That is, and then we came to LP records. I came with a few LP records. This is Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Disclaimer, I'm not giving away this one. We have That Boy, this is a reggae album. I'm also not giving away this one. I'm giving away a single by DCE, Come Hell or Waters High. That's a single. That's one song. Actually, so the reason it's called a single is because they would make a single song, but it is expensive to produce the LP records. And so what they would do, they would create, I don't know if you've heard of the term B-sides. And B-side is, on this LP record, you create one song, and then you put another single that the one that you're not sure about, you put it on the other side of the record so that it can become profitable. And there are times when the B side, which is not the main single, has become more successful than the A side, right? Right. So there's that. This is the first record I ever bought, and I'm giving it away tonight. That's Diana Rose. The House, Diana Rose, and there's another one who's something in here. Right. Yes. So I'll be giving away this one also. I don't know whether to pass them around. How many have never had a... No, they won't come back. This one is Peaches and Ham. Twice the Fire. That's also... I think that's an album. So, yeah, that's an album. And then we have Chicago. This is an album also. And then finally, we have... Munich Machine. This is an electronic record produced by. This is original Oots, produced by Giorgio Moroder. I don't know how many people did a lot of work with Donasama. So that is it's easy. Quiz Kikam, those are yours for the taking. Top 3, I'm going to give them away. Except the 2 that I mentioned. Alright, we move to cassette tapes and Walkman. I also have a few cassettes in my bag, but we'll get to that. So cassette tapes and Walkmans and CDs. The reason why I even brought the vinyl record is because the initial advent of sampling music came from LPs. That was the modern one that we know, the modern sampling that we know. Let's go. Oh, then there's CDs, of course, and then there's streaming, which is Spotify and YouTube and all of that. So, a history of sampling. So, sampling actually started in the 1940s through something called musique concrète, which is French for concrete music. If you listen to musique concrète, it sounds a lot like what you would term as modular ambient nowadays. How many of you know modular ambient? I have an example, but it's too late to load it right now, but it's there. Musique concrète is in the 1940s where they will take actual recordings of like the highway, of the street, or anything in the house when you're moving around the house, and they will make that into songs. It's very abstract and very experimental. It's not melodic music that, let me say it, that we Africans will enjoy. That is the truth. And so, music, something as it is known right now, is largely a construct of the late 70s and especially the early 80s. And that is DJ Cool Hack and the merry-go-round technique. So the merry-go-round technique, let me use these decks. So these decks they're an evolution of the LPs that we had. So what will happen is, a DJ will have one of these records, and have a turntable. This is a turntable. Place the record here, and place another record there. And then when it comes to what is termed as the break being a part of the music where it changes, it just changes, it's a break. So maybe it's just drums, it's just guitar, it's just whatever, but mostly drums. And they will put that part on here and then juggle with two records to be able to create a loop. And now a rapper comes and raps over it. That is the birth of hip hop. And also early hip hop also involved sample one there. So we have Sugar Hill Gang's Rappers Delight recreating Chicks Good Times, and we have that example here. So this is Good Times by Chick. This is the break. This is our break now. The music has changed, and it will go on. Yes. Let's just play the music for a minute. Right. So that's a break. And then what happens is we take that part, loop it, and play now Rappers Delight. So now, that break has been sampled now. We play that break. Lift it, let it go. Alright, Good Times by Chief. Let's do that one more time. So Rapper's Delight takes this part, which is a musical break, and then creates. Now here we go. This is Rapper's Delight now. Right? This is the first hip-hop hit song that's ever used. So, that is an example of the first record that ever existed in hip-hop. So, what is a break? We've explained what a break is. And we are going to talk about a few musical things and then we get into the actual Kenyan something, right? So, the most famous drum break is the Amen Brother. I think I had it, but I don't know that I can it. It's okay. So it has been sampled about 1,000 times, and it's a very famous loop. If you hear it, you will recognize it. And then we'll talk about BPM. BPM stroke tempo is a very important thing that we'll be discussing tonight. BPM meaning the beats per minute. This is basically how fast or how slow a song is, right? So a lot of BPM electronic dance music is around 130 to 140 BPM. Hip-hop, a lot of it is normally between 80 to 90 BPM. And then we have our Afro, Genge, and Kapuka. It's a mid-tempo genre, being between 90 and 100 BPM. That is the speed of the music. So you can imagine it in your head, it's very fast. Then you have hip-hop, which is more, a little bit slower, bop and everything. And then Genge, Kapuka, Afro is more of a mid-tempo vibe. That is that unique. So, types of something. This is where the fun begins. We have looping. Looping is essentially like what Cool Hack and the merry-go-round did. That is taking a part of a song, repeating it over and over again. We have an example of sampling with Giuliani's with Nicopoa by Nathan. Which song is this? Biceps. What do you play the song? So that is Julian Biceps, produced by Muia. Muia, who is an amazing producer from Kenya. Which song does it sample? Anybody? The sample song? I have played. Alright. So, that is We People Who Are Darker Than Blue by Curtis Mayfield. That is the sample of Biceps. And Giuliani's Town Mentality album from 2008 is a very heavy hip-hop album, as you've heard. That is an example of a loop. So you take a part of a song and you play it over and over again. We also have Major. That is Nicopoa. You know Nicopoa? Samples which song? The House Diana Rose. It's my house actually. Is it? Right. Let's play. Alright, there you go. That's an example of a loop. So you just take a part of a song, play it over and over again, and then build over it. Right? So that's Nicopoa, that samples Diana Ross. Then we have chopping, which is one of the most intricate parts of sampling, which is taking a part of a song and then chopping it up. I have an example from MBQ. So we have an example from Muia Drama Queen, which a song called Lava from 2018, I think. So as it loads, let's talk about, we'll hear that example. Then there is time stretching. Let me talk about time stretching. Time stretching is, you take the sample as it is, say it is 2 bars, and then you make it fit a certain tempo, a certain BPM, right? So the song might be a 60 BPM, and then you stretch it to fit an 80 BPM, right? Tumeelewa. That is time stretching. So this is an example of a chop. This is MBQ, a song called Lava. Right, and then it samples this. I don't know whether you've heard that. So this is a sample from a music library. We'll talk about libraries shortly. So this is recorded from, I think, the Bombers of Kenya. I'm not sure, but it's just it's called the National Percussion Group. So people come and record songs and then they make libraries. We'll see an example of that. There is an example from Beyonce. You know that there is Beyonce. So I think about commercial libraries for something. So what happens is you find that and even now, there's Splice, there's many other sites where people actually make music, place it on there, and it's copyright free or royalty free, meaning that it can be used by anybody for anything, right? So let's play it and see what happens. So this is the sample, which is basically, it's called Marketplace, right? And it's just a recording of women at the market, and it comes in play. So if you somewhere in there is Kikuyu women talking. If you listen carefully from the sample that you cannot hear because I think it's a little too loud. But if you go listen to it, you'll hear some Kikuyu, some woman asking why somebody is mad, right? Why somebody is mad, and now it was used in Beyonce. Coincidentally, that same sample, because it's from a commercial library, appears in Kendrick Lamar's Mortal Man. When you listen to Get Mortal Man by Kendrick Lamar at 2:36 specifically, you will hear a Kikuyu woman. You will also hear a Kikuyu woman talking inside there. Alright, so we were not familiar with your claim. Alright, so another thing with commercial sample libraries, we have Sophia Nzao, right? That is how she was able to blow up. I mean, she's a dope artist, right? But her sample was discovered by Zab on a commercial library. So you just take the song, make it. And now when you search Sophia Nzao, she has a lot of vocal parts, meaning that people are trying to get that source that Zab got. And she's the most streamed Kenyan artist at the moment because EDM, right? Alright, so we have pitch shifting. So this is an example of pitching. This is a song by Burna Boy. Listen to this. So pitch it up. So the pitch changes, right? It becomes higher pitch. Pitch it down. That is lowering the pitch of the sample, right? So So it becomes slower, but it's still, And now we have another example that is changing the tempo. So again, using the same loop, now we're going to do something that now is different. So the tempo changes, but the key remains, right? The pitch does not change. That is an example of changing tempo, right? So now we have interpolation, which it's interpolations of replaying a sample. So what interpolation is basically when you take a song and then you replay it, right? You don't take the original song. Case in point, we'll have TikToker by who? TXT. That is an example of an interpolation, meaning that they have taken from the source material, but instead of taking the song itself, they take elements of it and so that is now an example of which song is that? The sample song Megamuia by Drunken. That is the sample that has been used there. For those in musical ears, what else has happened to the sample apart from being replayed? The pitch has changed. That is the key has been changed, right? Clap for yourself. Right. So to the topic of today, sampling is stealing, right? So let's have a look at what the law says. So let's take a look at copyright law in Kenya. So the copyright is an exclusive bundle of rights granted by law to the author, right? Now, in Kenya there has been no landmark sample copyright case that involves sampling, right? But around the world there have been many sample cases that have involved many artists, right? Most famous is, let me highlight Bloodlines by Robin Thicke, produced by Pharrell, right? And so Marvin Gaye's estate went to court and sued for use of the sample. Now, Marvin Gaye's estate won, and I think the payout was 50 million or something. Yes, for copyright infringement. And then after that case was done, Pharrell went on a podcast and said that he wasn't sampling Marvin Gaye, but he was copying the feeling. He was trying to recreate the feeling. And what did Marvin Gaye's estate do? They went back to court for perjury, and they said he lied under oath that he was actually sampling. I don't know where that case has gone to, but that is an example of a case that has involved something that has been later recently. So Sting, again, Sting from Sting and PDD. What PDD? So every step I take, that song is an interpolation of a Sting song, and so they sample it without permission. And I think Sting is paid. He's paid per day. He's not even paid like per year. He's paid $2,000 per day for not using a sample, for not clearing a sample. Right? That is the law. So something important about copyright is that copyright exists from the moment of the creation of the song, of the work of art, during the lifetime, during the lifetime of the author, and 50 years after they are dead, right? So, guys, if you are a creative, make sure you copyright your work through KENYAN. But MCSK won't help you as we are about to see. Alright, so let's talk about some advantages of sampling that we have. Promotes creativity and innovation. So when you have a song like the MDQ song is a perfect example of what creativity and innovation in sampling is, because it is able to capture, you're able to recreate something that is not even, you're able to create something totally new, right? And accessibility to music production, because You may not be able to create your own beat, but you can take a break, a drum break, loop it around, rap over it, rapper's delight, here we come, right? So remembering and revitalizing culture. So we have Sifu Calligraph Jones, which again borrows from, we call it Christian oral tradition, which is basically our Christian songs that we are used to in singing, and we are able to reinterpret them through trap, through all these different genres of music. And then economic opportunities when legal, and this is where the case for urban comes in, right? They do it not legally, and they are not able to monetize or be able to earn fruitfully from their sampling. And then it attracts new audiences to older works, right? So we have old songs that we can now go back to, listen to the Marvin Gaye's, listen to the Daudi Kabakas, listen to all these older artists who have been there, right? Some disadvantages. Go back. Disadvantages. Yeah, you pay a lot of money when you're caught sampling without permission, especially when your song starts blowing up. Diana Ross is not following Major. You know what I mean? But if Major's song crosses over to South Africa, crosses over to Indonesia, the record label is like, okay, give me my money now, and that's when they come for you. Perception of stealing or lack of originality. So that is now what we're talking about, that perception that you were not even original, you're just taking a loop from this guy and reworking it and telling us that you have a new song. That perception. And then you have ethical concerns and exploitation. So I was speaking to Mwalimu Greg Tendwa, the co-founder of Santuri East Africa, a really cool space across the road. And shout out Santuri. And he was telling us about how he was in Uganda and had a song, and really loved the vibe of the song, and reworked it, put some EDM on it, and went to play it at a club. And then he's playing the song, and everybody just looked at him like, what is wrong with you? Only to come find out that that's a Matanga song. That's a song for death. That's a song for when people are dead. That's a song for when to commemorate the dead. And so that is an ethical concern and an aspect of, are we really doing it in the right way? You know what I mean? So in the Kenyan context, these are pictures from a few articles in Kenya and in Kenyan dailies. So we have music sampling, creativity, or outright copyright infringement, published on the Star by Alan Tully on the 17th of February 2010. So, and then there is music sampling and the copyright dilemma, that is on Daily Nation. So many artists sample under the guise of creativity, but yet it is just stealing. If you go through some of these articles, we have a very negative perception of sampling. Especially, let me just say it outright, the media in Kenya has a very negative perception of sampling. We do not see beyond the creativity of reworking music. We do not understand cultural reimagination. We do not appreciate reworking new songs, and so we bash. We want to box people in. Why don't you make music like so? Why don't you make music like like Nyashinski? Why don't you make music like so and so? And we want to. No wonder you never go far. That's the perception that we have of Kenyan music, right? So there is a beautiful paper that has been written by Joyce Nairo. I don't know how many of us know Joyce Nairo. A dope musicologist from Kenya who talks about Zilizopendwa. And from her argument, she says that while acknowledging sampling in the digital sense, in the sense of all the looping and the chopping and the sampling and all of those things, she also recognizes that sampling is also cultural, right? Sifu Bwana, you have it. All right, let's go. So that is Sifu Bwana by Calligraph Jones, able to bring an old song and be able to rework it into a new song. That is allows us to imagine culture. Zilizopendwa, we collect into Zilizopendwa music from the 50s and 60s especially, because we don't necessarily appreciate, because that is another golden era of Kenyan music. right? That's when we had a lot of Kenyan artists coming out. David Kabaka, Fundi Konde, Fadili Williams, Malaika, hello. All of these songs came about during that time. And so, coming from all Kenyan recordings, we now have an opportunity to create and recreate music samples and nostalgia, which I think, in my opinion, is the essence of something. Nostalgia is something, but we should remember that nostalgia is fantasy, right? Nostalgia is fantasy. So, let's talk about when sampling becomes stealing. I have two songs that I will play that are, I think, effectively demonstrate that you can actually steal and not sample. Alright, so play that. So that is an example of what I would say is the negative aspect of sampling, where you just take something, you just take a song, every element, don't change anything, and just change a word or two, and then you want to tell us that you have sampled. That is the word, plagiarism. And now you see the thing is, which is quite disappointing, gospel artists are not immune from this, right? Let me play. This is a song by Motisho. Play. The jury is still out. What do you guys think? So, again, this is another gospel song that again steals from another gospel song in this case. Play. How many of you know this song? So listen to the horn section. Play. Don't play. I play. Right, so that is a song by, the first song is a song by Megamuia called Nizako, and then the second song is a song by Danny Gift called Nyate Nichev. Now, I'm not saying these artists have stolen. I'm just saying it's a very huge coincidence that the song sounds exactly the same. And I wonder where you got that inspiration from, and especially in such a copy-paste way, right? In such a copy-paste way. That is when sampling becomes stealing. Now, let's talk about urban tone, which I don't think is sampling. Let me explain. I'll explain why urban tone is not sampling. I think urban tone is not sampling because it follows Jamaican building culture. So let's give them that place. Except a few songs like TikToker that we played before. play it again. And so we have Octopizo, who has made a career out of sampling. I think I have. So this is Octopizo, who has made a career out of sampling, I will say. But disclaimer, I think he does a good job with sampling. Okay. This is the sample. That is Slim Ali and the Holy Boys, an amazing funk band from Kenya. That is a Kenyan song. And yes, it is. Slim Ali and the Holy Boys. Slim Ali is from Mombasa, worked all around the world. 70s. That's 70s. It's from the 70s. So that particular album, the one that contains that song, actually was one of his most commercially successful albums. To the point where Slim Ali and the Holy Boys, to a point where he after that album dropped, Alienda Maju, he relocated and went to play outside the country. And then when he came back, it was not the same. Same to who else had a successful song and moved out of the country. We have Fadili Williams after Malaika, hung around and then had his song was very famous outside, went to the States and his music career was never the same when he came back. That is an example. So, do we agree that Abaton is not sampling Ama is doing It's not sampling. Alright. Thank you, Chad. So the current state of sampling. So what is the current state of sampling? I think we have a lot of samples that we have started sampling songs from the early 2000s. There's a group that mentioned Opera Water that samples which song? Deadly by Nameless. Thank you. Let's hear what they do to it. So that is, and then Deadly by Nameless. So that is an example of what the current state of sampling is, where we take songs that are already existent and then we rework them. There's I'm forgetting her name right now. Stacy, somebody who's an R&B artist. Stacy Kamatu. Yes. Stacy Kamatu. There's a song in which I've just remembered it right now on stage. That samples Harry Kimani's Higher, sung in the lyrics somewhere inside there. And so, so can we ever get to a place where we appreciate our local genres and borrow more from them? There is a lot of songs that have sampled locally from within. There's a song by 125 a cappella that or 125 Red or something like that samples the Wikabaka's Musa. Unfortunately, I don't have it, but there's a lot of sampling that is happening from within the country. Be it lyrics, be it beats, be it certain elements from this and that. And let me speak about one of the biggest people who have gained a huge advantage from sampling. Who would you think that is, if I was to ask? Octopizo is one of them. Who's the other artist who has? But we say that Abaton is not sampling. We have agreed that as a class. Again, Mr. Lou, that's a good answer. And then we have, I think so. This one I don't know whether many people know, but here is a sample from one of the songs. Okay. So, play it again. The lyrics is what we're listening for. Okay? And right? Let me play. Right, so that is the Shawiyango. Alright, here's another one. Play it again. And then tell me that melody, which song it has been used in. Again, one of the most famous samples again, the last one, and then we can. Okay, but then let's guess which song that is. Which song is it? No, I'm asking you, which song do you think is the famous sample? Let me ask, what sampling technique has been used in that song? Pitch shifting, that's correct. Which other one? Yeah? Somebody said stealing. So we have a loop right there that has been pitch shifting, right? So you loop the song and then you change the key of the sample, right? So has the sample been pitched up or pitched down? Pitched up. So it sounds a little squeaky. So that I'll get the name of the sample. I don't have my phone, but like it's by a Brazilian artist. That much I can tell. It's what is it called? Guitarist. Right. So that has been my time.